Hi. Hello. Here we are for the third day on the Whipping Boy, and I think it's only going to be today and tomorrow, and then it'll be done. But bad news, I thought the book Evelina was going to be here, but it's not till the 10th, I think, and today's the 30th. So a week and a half. So I might have to find something else to read after this one, but I might have a book on my hard drive. Understood Betsy. It's a cute one I read to my children when they were little. It's been kind of fun to revisit some of the the books that my children enjoyed when they were little. So I don't have the cutie baby right now today. Hopefully, he's asleep. It's 9 o'clock. He's having a nap. He doesn't go to bed at 9. He has a nap at 9, and then he will be up until 3 or 4, and I won't get to go to bed, which he doesn't sleep anyway, so I don't sleep much. I did bring some stuff in to show off some of the stuff that I've made, and start with this super cute necklace. So it's got the rose colored. Oh, my lighting is so bad in here. I know. Sorry. The rose colored metallic flakes, and then a real dried flower inside. So cute. And then these are really cute. This pair I really like of it's coffee bean earrings. Oh, the lighting so bad. But these ones are extra cute. Here, I'll take it off the black background so you can see it better. They have the little teardrop and then the coffee beans. So really cute. And then I did some of these. These are really fun. These little coffee cup earrings. So they look like a coffee cup. And then I've sold a bunch of these. This is not one of the cutest ones because I've sold all the cutest ones. But it's a little unicorn necklace, and it's so cute. You know who I sell most of these to? Daddies buying them for their little girls. It's so cute. They love them. The little girls love them, and the daddies love to buy them. It's cute. And then I have shown off. I think these turned out really cute. These are cherries, little shiny cherry earrings. Love those. And then these ones I thought turned out gorgeous. I love, they have, the lighting is so bad. You can't tell how pretty the colors are, but they're pink and purple with little kind of looks like ocean waves and seashells in them. They're really pretty. They're kind of big, like chunky. I know that I kind of like smaller jewelry, but I know a lot of people like a bigger chunky, so I like to make sure I do lots of different styles. So, they're fairly big for me, but I think they're cute. And then another thing I do is these cute like frame holders. So you prop this up and then you can set your picture on it. Or like you can hold your cookbook open, while you're cooking. So it holds your book open. Or you set your picture on it as a frame, or even like a tablet, and it holds it up. So these are kind of cool. I really like these. Anyway, those are a few things I've made. And then before I get started, what did you have for dinner? We had, I did a baked chicken in a red hot sauce and mushrooms and green onions, and it was good. And then roasted asparagus and mashed potatoes with gravy, and then I made carrot cookies for dessert, and they were really good. Charles, he loves dessert. He always, every time he's done eating, he wants a little something sweet, but he wants us to eat less sugar. So I've been trying to do smaller batches of things, and then we make it last. So like I made the cookies today. We're going to be eating them for 3 or 4 days, But so we'll probably be having carrot cookies tomorrow too. They were really good. And then don't forget to put a like on the video. The YouTube things that you do. All the stuff, like, subscribe, You know what to do. I don't have to tell you. Okay. So we were on chapter 11. So the the skinny guy and the fat guy, the hold your nose Billy and Cutwater, kidnapped the two boys, Jemmy and the prince, and then they made Jemmy write. Well, they wanted the prince to write a ransom note, but the prince can't read or write, so Jemmy did it. So he pretended to be the prince. So the prince was really mad because Jemmy stole his princeliness from him, and he's really upset about it. So he's sitting over there sulking because he wants his yummy food and his silver platter and his crown and his title, but things are not going his way. So Jemmy wrote the ransom note, and we'll just step into chapter 11 and we'll go from here. Jemmy also told him to have Prince Brat take the crown back to the castle to deliver the note. And that was like, that's how he was going to save him from these ruffians, right? He was saving the prince's life, and the prince was like, nope, I'm not going back. I'm not going to deliver it. So here we are, chapter 11. Jemmy was struck dumb. Did Prince Brat have sand for brains? God, didn't he realize he could snatch up his crown and go free? It doesn't please me to take orders from common rascals, Prince Brat said coldly. It would please me to shake the teeth out of your confounded face, replied Hold Your Nose Billy. You may live in the castle, but you are only a whipping boy. Do as we say. I will do what I choose, and I choose not to run your errands. Jemmy leaped up and gave the prince an angry flash of eyes. Jemmy from the streets gets these stubborn fits, he said, contrary as a mule. Let me have a word with him. I'll whip the mulishness out of him, exclaimed Cutwater, lurching forward. Prince Brat dodged out of his grasp, and a sour smile crossed his face. I'll tear up your vile message the moment I'm gone, and keep the crown for myself. Hold Your Nose Billy caught Cutwater's upraised arm. Hold off. There's something in what he says. You think he's angling for a share of the reward, Billy? Likely is. The greedy little snipe, Cutwater bleated. How much do you reckon we can spare? This calls for private words. Let's parley. Follow me. The moment the outlaws ducked out of the hut, Jemmy turned on his companion. Prince Blockhead, you should wear your crown to fend off woodpeckers. Impostor, how dare you insult me? You're enough to give the devil himself fits. Haven't I so muddled their brains that they want to turn you loose, and you reward me with a royal squawk? The prince had crossed to the wicker basket and snatched up an uneaten apple tart. He gobbled it down. I will return to the castle when I'm ready, when I choose, and not a moment before. Jemmy's eyes narrowed sharply. He couldn't fathom what was stirring in the prince's mind. Could he, for once, be concerned for someone other than himself? It's not me you think you're protecting, is it? You? Knowing they'll knock the daylights out of me soon as they found out I tricked them. The prince shrugged. You're quick, boy. You'll think of something. I've already thought it. Once you're up and gone, I'll slip away, out in the forest. I'll be harder to catch than a flea. But I'm not leaving, said the prince firmly. Gah, but why? Is it your paw you're afraid of? Is that why you won't go back? The prince scoffed. He won't miss me. Course he will. Let him wait. And mind your own affairs, whipping boy. It is my affair. Do you reckon you're out on a lark with murderers outside? The murderer shuffled back into the hut. Hold Your Nose Billy fixed Prince Brat with a hairy smile. Never let it be sung about me. Oh, sorry. Never let it be sung about that me and Cutwater ain't generous to a fault, lad. We'll share out with you a bucket full of gold and jewels. No, replied the prince flatly, as if he'd been offered a bucket full of coal. Don't run me out of patience, warned the huge outlaw. The prince remained defiant. I'm staying. Hold Your Nose Billy ripped off his leather belt. I'll lash a bit of sense into your head. Jemmy saw that Prince Brat wasn't going to shift his ground. You don't need my whipping boy to get into the castle. There's a better way. Do say, exclaimed Cutwater doubtfully. My horse, remarked Jimmy. There's your messenger, sirs. Hold your nose, Billy gave a snort. Faugh! That fine beast? We've been afoot since our skin-poor horse turned heels up. We need a mount in our line of work. Nitwits, exclaimed Jimmy, as if his own princely patience were at an end. With rings on your fingers and gold in your pockets, you can take to the roads like gentlemen. You'll be traveling about in fine coaches. But first, you've got to lay hands on the treasure. Cutwater made a sound through his nose like a pitch pipe. With that horse outside? One of the king's own. A horse can always find his way home, can't it? That fine beast will make for the castle stables, note and crown. No questions asked. Chapter 12, wherein Jemmy is betrayed. With a gleeful chuckle, Hold-Your-Nose Billy dropped the ransom note and the golden crown into a dirty linen sack. When he'd knotted the sack to the saddle, he turned to Cutwater. Soon as I'm within a squint of the castle, I'll turn the beast loose. Guard our prisoners. I'll tie him up, Cutwater wheezed, giving his heavy partner a foot up into the royal saddle. From the doorway, Jemmy watched Hold-Your-Nose Billy vanish into the tangled maze of tree limbs and brambles. Then he glanced about the bare furnishings, the hanging ropes of garlic bulbs, the bed straw, the chest of stolen goods. He'd need some trickery to escape. The prince fixed him with a smirk. You're clever, all right, but a common dunce all the same. Gah! A cartload of gold and jewels. The ruffians would have been content with the mere jingle of coins. Jemmy's eyes swung back to the bed straw. There was his escape. A cartload of moonshine, he said. It'll never be forked over. I'm the prince. Papa will have to pay it. Jemmy began burrowing like a barn mouse under the moldy straw. Not a bit he won't. Papa will foam at the mouth. Jemmy was disappearing limb by limb under the straw. Think again. It'll be clear as water the note's a scrambly-witted fake. Papa will keep me under lock and key after this. It won't fool a soul, that note. How could you have written it? Everyone in the castle knows you can't so much as sign your own name. I never needed to before. It's me that's in the soup. I'll catch it for your mischief in running away, and I'll catch it again when the tutor claps eyes on the handwriting. He'll say, Jemmy, this is Jemmy trying to line his own pockets. Your Paul scragged me with his bare hands. So I'll be obliged if you'd help me nip out of here. I promise you my protection, announced the prince with sudden generosity. Jemmy protects himself, said the whipping boy. When that plaguey Cutwater comes to tie us up, tell him I slipped out the door. Soon as he bounces off after me, I'll make a break for it. You'd leave me alone with cutthroats? Before Jemmy could answer, he heard the sharp squeak of the door. He held his breath. Lad, you won't mind if I truss you up like a Christmas goose? There came a sudden pause, and Jemmy's heart began to thump. Where's the prince? Cutwater snapped. Jemmy heard Prince Brat answer without the slightest hesitation. Him? Over there, under the straw. Boy, he's helpful. Chapter 13, The Chase. A thoroughbred of the streets, Jemmy acted on instinct. He didn't wait to be nabbed. In a burst of straw, he shot up and made a leap for the door. Cutwater, startled, lost the merest breath of time, but it was enough. Jemmy flung open the door and ran. His long arms outstretched, Cutwater lurched after him, and Prince Brat followed. Jemmy vanished into the wild green tangle. He jumped a great fallen log, ducked under low-hanging branches, and, like a rabbit, made sudden changes in direction. He could hear Cutwater close behind, breathing like a bellows. I'm on your tracks. Stop before I get agravexed with you, Prince. Jemmy covered the ground at full tilt. Leaves crackled under his feet. Gah, he thought, he might as well be leading a confounded parade for all the noise he was making. He reached a small clearing and half jumped out of his skin. Sniffing near the skeleton white roots of an upturned hollow tree stood a wild beast. A bear. Jemmy would have preferred Cutwater's own company, but before he could find his legs, the hairy beast took flight. It went crashing away to Jemmy's left. Jemmy got his breath back. Then, almost without thinking, he dove into the hollow of the dead tree and snuggled himself in. Moments later he caught the merest glimpse of Cutwater cupping an ear. Turning on his heels, the rattle-boned man gave a shout. "Practically got you by the hind leg, pesky prince!" Jimmy let out a small sigh of relief. Cutwater would have a mighty surprise if he caught that bear by the hind leg. Here's a picture. Oh, sorry. I'll snuggle it. See the bear running away. Oh my goodness, I keep going the wrong way. It's backwards for me. As the sounds of the chase grew fainter, Jimmy crawled out of the hollow root. The sun was now high enough to send down smoky rays of light through the treetops. Which way was the river? And then he saw Prince Brad, his face lobster red from running at the edge of the clearing. "Unfaithful servant!" he protested, glaring hard at Jemmy. Until this moment, Jemmy hadn't had a moment's pause for anger, but now fury shot into his eyes. "Curse this blabber-tongued, hateful prince! You betrayed me! You'd have deserted me without a care," Jemmy bristled. "Ain't it me they think is the prince? If you hadn't pointed me out under the straw, Cutwater would have flown off to pick up my tracks, and we could have crept away dead easy. I wouldn't be running my lungs out." The prince pondered this for a moment. He nodded. "Then I forgive you." Jimmy was speechless for a moment. "Forgive me? Don't trouble yourself, my good and loyal prince, and get yourself another whipping boy." "But I have not dismissed you from my service," said the prince calmly. "I dismiss myself," Jemmy fired back. "I'll get where I'm going, and you can find your own way back to the castle." "I'll go with you." "Not likely." Jemmy turned to the right and beat his way back into the foliage. Chapter 14, in which is heard a voice in the forest. Jemmy could hear Prince Brat following in his tracks, step by step. He grimly pressed on. Brambles reaching out like cat's claws tore at their fine garments. The forest trees rose all around them like prison bars. Finally Jemmy spun around. "Lay off! Go your own way." "This way suits me," said the prince. "Well, don't follow me. I've no more idea than a gnat where I'm heading." "Silence," whispered the prince with a turn of his head. "Hear that?" They froze, the two of them. A voice came wailing through the woods. "Tunya! Pet, pet, Petunia!" Then a young woman appeared, barefoot and jangling with bracelets. She moved through the trees as quickly as a wood spirit. "Pet, pet, Petunia!" She carried a coiled rope in one hand and held outstretched in the other an amber chunk of comb honey. "Come here, darling. Come to Betsy." Suddenly, as if sensing a presence in the trees, she headed toward Jemmy and the prince. "Petunia? You there, naughty rascal? Smell the honey. Come feast yourself, pet." Jemmy didn't know what to make of this woman, girl, really, for as he drew closer he reckoned she couldn't be more than 14 or 15 years old. He stepped out into full view with the prince clinging to him like a shadow. "Miss?" She stopped short. "My eyes! Who are you?" "Lost," said Jemmy. "Would you know which way to the river?" "Course I do. Ain't we headin' for the fair, me and Petunia? Have you seen him?" "Petunia?" "Got loose he did. My dancing bear. World famous." There's the picture. The pictures are kind of cute. I know my lighting's not good, but... "Scared me out of my skin," Jemmy replied, and pointed. "Back there." She turned on her heels and started off. "Hey!" Jemmy shouted. "Where's the river?" "Where it's always been. Due south." "Which way is south?" Betsy paused to set her arm like a signpost. "Straight on." "You certain?" "Certain, I'm certain. Didn't Pa always say I had a head like a compass? Rest him in peace." And she was gone. Their clothes were ripped to tatters by late morning when Jemmy and the prince caught sight of the sparkling river, and almost at once they dove back into cover. Mounted on high-stepping horses, a pair of soldiers were advancing along the river road. "They must be out searching for you," Jemmy whispered. "If they catch me with you, I'm done for." Prince Brat didn't seem to be listening. His eyes were fixed on the passing soldiers. Look here, Jemmy muttered impatiently. I can't have you sticking to me like a barnacle. Ain't you had a snoutful of running away? Go back with the soldiers. The prince shook his head. Let them pass. And then he added with the faintest of smiles, this is the first time no one has had fits because I got my clothes grimy. The ladies keep me clean and starched as a pillowcase. But you're a prince. Is my face dirty as yours? You don't belong knocking about outside the walls. Prince Brat gazed off into the distance. Did you have lots of friends when you lived on the streets? Heaps. Heaps, of course. And hardly a one of 'em wouldn't fight me over a bone. Go back. Your pa must be having double fits o' worry. The prince answered with a flash of resentment. I might as well be stuffed and hung on the wall like a stag's head for all he notices me. You remind him often enough with all your pranks. How long are you going to let him sweat and stew? I don't know, declared the prince. Maybe I'll never go back. This is the best time I ever had. Gah, Jimmy murmured. Chapter 15 of the Hot Potato Man and Other Matters. The soldiers had passed by. Following the river, Jimmy ventured toward the city. Prince Brat strode along beside him. Soon as I can, I aim to give you the slip, Jimmy warned. You'll be on your own. The prince said nothing. The tide was low and they traveled out of sight of the road below a grassy embankment. In the distance, against billowing white clouds, stood a jackstraw jumble of ship's masts. You can fend for your own self, can't you? Jimmy asked suddenly. Of course I can, answered the prince in a stinging voice. I don't need flocks of servants to fetch and carry for me. It's settled then. Settled! Skip off any time you like. With the tide out, a wide mudflat lay exposed. From long habit, Jimmy kept his eyes peeled for treasure. Sandpipers scattered like mice before him. He spotted a barrel stave and pounced on it. Trash, remarked the prince. What are you doing? Mudlarking. What? I've got to eat, don't I? If I can collect enough driftwood, I can sell it as firewood. The prince shrugged and walked on ahead. Jemmy gazed after him for a moment. What did a prince know about living off the streets? His meals had always appeared on china plates and silver trays as if by magic. Left to himself, he'd starve. It's not my worry, Jemmy muttered. What? You, that's what. If you get hungry enough, you'll scramble back to the castle. The prince glared back at Jimmy, and then stooped down to retrieve the broken leg of a chair from the mud. Is this worth anything? Jimmy nodded. Before long, the two of them had collected 3 more barrel staves in the back of the chair. Then Jimmy found something even more valuable to him, a bent and battered bird cage. He could go into business with that. Straightened out, it would hold rats. They rounded a bend, and the crack of a whip sounded in the air like a firecracker. Jimmy crawled up the embankment for a look. A weary old coach was mired in a mud hole on the road. The coachman, looking just as old and rickety, held the reins of his 2-horse team and cracked his whip in the air again. Pull, gents, be good lads. It's me own fault not leading you round this bog. My eyesight ain't what it was, is it, old tars? Jimmy watched for another moment as the horses tried to pull the coach free. The coach was enameled blue, with yellow lettering painted on the door panel. Captain Harry Nips, Hot Potato Man. Jimmy crawled over the embankment. A ride to the city would suit him fine. Sir, would you take on a passenger? Here, let me set these barrel staves under the wheels. Don't mind if you do, said Captain Nips. I'm late for the fair as it is. Jimmy busied himself laying a firm track for the wheels. Prince Brat watched from the edge of the embankment. You must be carrying a heavy load, Jimmy cried out. Try again, Cap'n. The old man cracked his whip. The horses strained, and the coach rolled up out of the bog. Hop in, lad. Jimmy opened the door and saw that the coach was heavily loaded with raw potatoes and a huge iron kettle. Jimmy settled himself as best he could, and the coach lurched forward. At last, Jimmy thought, you're free of the prince. But he couldn't resist a backward glance. Prince Brat was standing in the center of the road. He'd dropped his load of driftwood and merely gazed at the receding coach. Jimmy straightened and folded his arms. The prince wasn't his lookout any longer, but he'd stood there like a wounded bird. Blast him! Prince hadn't a cockeyed notion how to fend for himself. "Stop, Captain!" Jimmy shouted. "We left me friend behind." The hot potato man pulled up on the reins. Jimmy leaned out a window. With an arm, he motioned Prince Brat to come along. For an instant, Jimmy thought he saw a smile flash across the prince's face, but it had vanished by the time the heir to the throne joined him inside the coach. They rode in silence. Jimmy wondered what had possessed him to refer to Prince Brat as his friend. Friend? Cows would give beer first. Then, minutes later, the coach rocked to a sudden halt. "Stand and deliver!" came a shout. A pair of highwaymen were training pistols on Captain Nips. Jimmy hardly had to peer out. The voice was familiar. It was Hold Your Nose Billy and Cutwater. Okay. That's our stopping place, chapters 1 through 15. And we'll pick up tomorrow, chapter 16 through 20, right? And that's going to be the end of it, I think. Didn't I say it only went to 20? Like I said, this is a short one, but it's cute. It's funny. Yep, chapter 20. Yeah, so that'll finish. We'll finish it up tomorrow, and then maybe I'll start Understood Betsy, because Evelina is not going to be here. I thought it was going to be here in time, but I guess it got delayed. So, all right, well, we will see you tomorrow for just one more story in the story corner from the story lady. That's me. We'll see you.